with like that.
Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to another edition of Fandalorians. This week we are diving into Chapter 22, Guns for Hire, which, I have to double check, may be the first title without "the" in it in the history of the show. Joining me, of course, are my fellow Fandalorians from A Dawn of Ice and Fire. We have, of course, Don Willie, the man Don Lorian.
Indeed.
And from Smirking Reviews, you know him, you love him, it's Rob Stone.
Great news, everyone. Hi, it's Dana from StreamYard here once again to tell everybody that yes, we do have live local recordings. I hope that changes your lives.
And we got some great guests already joining us in the chat. Eric Scott and Christian Silva, thank you so much for joining us live. And for everyone joining us in the archives, thanks as always for spending some time with us talking some Star Wars. At the end of this discussion, we will touch on the new things that are coming out of Star Wars Celebration. A few little bits of news. We'll try and save them for the end. I know we want to get into this episode, so let's dive in. Because I'm really curious about tonight's discussion. From what I've seen from the fandom, a lot of, I wouldn't say divisive, maybe differing opinions on this week's episode. So I will go ahead and lead off this week with my opinions, and we'll let Don just overheat over there in his helmet for a little while. I actually really enjoyed this episode. This was another Bryce Dallas Howard directed episode who I think has just been killing it with the season 1 episode she did. Great action, fun storytelling. She did the Heiress, of course, last season, which brought back Bo-Katan and had some great Mandalorian fights. So I was really excited to see that she was listed as directing this episode. It was a longer one, which was kind of nice. And while it was really more of a side quest episode than, a main plot line, we did get to a very decisive point at the end, which I was hoping would be brought up. So I'm really excited of how that really worked out. The adventure-wise, I mean, it was fine. I'm not going to say that this is what I wanted to see this week, but I still enjoyed what I saw. I personally have no problem with the cameos. I think they were actually very smart having several in this episode. And the reason I say that is cameos typically, look, when you have the recognizable actors show up, that's the bad guy. Okay, they're playing a very central role. So if we just had, Doc Brown in here, we would be looking like, well, he's going to be important. We've got to keep an eye on what this person says. But having Lizzo and Jack Black in there as well, I thought was awesome. One, Lizzo was just being Lizzo, fine. Jack Black, always happy to see. And they played him as the possible villain because he's ex-Imperial. He's involved with things. His wife even asked him a couple of times, you sure everything's okay? You're not involved? Oh, sweetheart. If you're going to do a misdirect, I think that was a fun way to do it. And everybody wants to be in a Star Wars. So I really didn't have any issues with that. As I said, mainly it was just I wanted something more main plot driven than really kind of side quest. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought there were some great parts. I really liked the action. And again, by the end, we did actually resolve a major plot point necessary to move forward. And I think that was handled well. I thought it was a great fight, too, of different fighting styles. And we got to see some Mando jetpacks and flamethrowers and all those fun little gadgets. So, yeah, I guess I end up on the bright side of this episode. Was it what I wanted to see? No. Did I enjoy it? Yeah. I think there was enough stuff in there to really make it all worthwhile. Don, let's jump over to you first. How did you think of this week's episode? The helmet's coming off.
So, my prediction from last week was dead wrong. That was not the season finale of Bo-Katan. So this week on Bo-Katan DeLorean, um, yeah, that is pretty much what the show should be called uh, right about now. Because I mean, she seems to be the central character. Um, Look, I enjoyed it. I know there was a lot of hoopla on the internet because you can't have people that we recognize from not being in Star Wars in Star Wars. And just like, who cares? I will say I think Lizzo could use some acting lessons. There was a little stiffness there, but
Sure.
I didn't have an issue with her being on the show. Um, I liked I liked the different approach to the whole villain thing. Um, I mean, because we got something from prequel eras, and again, I mentioned this last week about people with the whole different generational thing. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was 2 weeks ago, wasn't? Listen, this all starts to bleed over every now and then, but
It's
the whole generational thing. You have a character who has been through all of the different eras, and he had a certain perspective on things and how he thought, what he thought was the best system of governance. And that is one thing that I like that Star Wars does well is show well, or what it has been doing a lot uh, more recently in terms of showing the different systems of governance and how the different factions or people who now have to live under a different regime than they're used to, like, what they happen to think about it. So I thought that was genius to actually bring somebody back from the Confederacy, the separatist. That's a pejorative term. Um, I thought that was awesome to do that. Um, it was funny seeing because I pretty much as soon as they landed on that planet, I was like, oh, um, this looks like Epcot Center. That's the first thing I did, especially with the tubes. I was like, oh, Space Mountain. Okay, it's cool. You got Epcot Center. You got Space Mountain. You got the Pirates of the Caribbean off in the distance. Oh my God, it's
oh my
pretty
god,
cool.
they're
Not
doing
too
the
bad at
park.
all. So I definitely I enjoyed it because I thought that they made some very smart moves in terms of uh just kind of uh, showing different aspects of the galaxy and um how there's been a trade-off of sorts in terms of who is seen as the good guys versus the bad guys. And yeah, look, it was a little jarring because it was totally not what I was expecting, but I absolutely enjoyed the fact that they gave me something a little different. So, you know,
Right on, right on. Yeah, it was last week that you were talking the generational stuff, and yeah, I did love the fact that we have a time frame that can have people that were separatists and then imperial and now New Republic or going through those eras and having those different points of view. That's an excellent point. Rob or Scott Summers, what did you think of this week's episode?
Uh, so you guys made like really good points. I mean, no, I mean I can't like I part of me enjoyed this.
Sure.
Yeah, jarring is the right word for some of this. Because it's just I don't know. I my whole thing, this whole thing just hasn't changed, and this episode didn't change that either. It's just my whole concern is story, plot, character. Just yeah, I mean, besides Bo-Katan, nobody's got any. Everybody's just along for the ride, you know. So like Mando's, nobody's, you know, anybody that says like he's a secondary character in his own show, like this has been said a lot about a lot of shows that Disney puts out, that the main characters whatever, because they're trying to fill out the world they're in, and so there can't just be one character, and so
Look at
people
Boba
freak out
Fett.
about screen time or whatever, and sometimes valid and sometimes not, but you know, most of the people that have that negative attitude about that usually coming at it from bad faith anyway. um but again, there's Bryce Dallas Howard always does a great job visual, like we get really great visuals. The beginning of this episode, again, I liked seeing what Bo-Katan's people have been doing. It lets us know these are the people that got Moff Gideon out. And that they're not just like, you know, the way that they handle the situation is interesting. Like it's not handled like you usually would see things. It's very diplomatic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's requiring diplomacy, they could have shot, you know, they don't usually shoot scenes like this for something. It's usually everybody gets killed or big action sequence instead of letting something play out quietly. I really liked how that started, and it all looked fantastic. We get to see, you know, get some insight into other worlds with how they're handling their thing. You know, stuff that we saw in Clone Wars and Rebels is all is leaking into this show, right? And that's all great. They get to the planet, and I'm all good with the ship getting taken over. Like some people were freaking out about, oh, this can't, like, it's just we're in a fictionalized galaxy of far, far away. There's got to be some kind of like the things that they pick to nitpick are sometimes the most stupid things in the world, because it's just like to bitch to just to bitch. So they get taken. And again, what I also like here is reactions of our characters in this. So it's all leading, like I like the back and forth between Bo-Katan. And then yeah, we get to this scene and it's really jarring. But my main thing about it was that it was the plot that they gave us was really badly executed and planned, and the dialogue, when they weren't saying technical things, sounded like a 14-year-old wrote it. Like, you know, and I know because I was a 14-year-old and I was writing, and I know what our writing, okay, game recognizes game, 14-year-old writing game. Okay, they were written like, just the dialogue was just so basic. Those are the things that I have a problem with, not the, like, you know, the package that they put it all in.
Sure.
You know, the world looked great. The robot bar looked great. The whole dynamic, if you start to really think about this world and their democracy and all of the intricacies, and actually how if we ever revisit this planet on someone else's show, you know, or a movie someday, there's some interesting things that they could talk about. The disparity between, you know, oh, nobody has to work, but that doesn't mean that some people still aren't living pretty bad. You know, there's some stuff to revisit there with this story, especially, you know, the Ugnaughts and things like that. Like,
yeah,
but
they're working.
It's just the way that they handled this B plot was just ugh, that I didn't even care that about the cameos anymore. And I do think that Jack Black was really trying very hard to get you to forget that he was Jack Black, and I think for the most part he succeeded. But Doc Brown's 900-year-old ass man wasn't going to get us to see anybody but Doc Brown, okay? Because he was just sitting there doing it all, like just the thing. I'm doing the thing, everybody. Don't make me touch the big red button, Marty. I'll take us all the way back to hell. And Lizzo is just Lizzo. I don't even know who she is, really. All I know is that she just walked around with baby Grogu like a prop the whole episode, and it was just like, here, jump for the fishies. And that's like what he is. He's an accessory at this point. Like he is in a bunch of ladies' purses right now. There's a fucking baby Grogu popping his head out. So basically, she was just asking for what everybody else already has. And then Din Djarin, he's just standing there going, "I hate droids," and it was kind of funny because he really, but and then at the end, yay, we get something we mentioned way back in episode 2 that could have been resolved at any GD time. Just like as casually as Luke flipped the saber over his shoulder in Last Jedi. Oh, you want it? Oh, yeah. And here's a stupid ass explanation that I could have told you 6 episodes ago. Plot, story, character, even in this, like when it matters if you set up a standard of quality. Okay, if this show was never quality, then the things that I'm saying right now would be unwarranted. Because even the dialogue, as Star Wars as it always is, isn't always this bad, and plots aren't always this contrived and poorly executed and finished. The guy's motivations, it was like if you actually listened to it, you were like thinking you were listening to somebody who was having like late stage Alzheimer's. No offense to anybody that has it or is delusional. And all of that, I hope you still heard that I did like all this stuff. But like if you just throw out all the other stuff too, then all you're left is just with it looks great, it sounds great, everybody's pretty. That's it.
Yeah. Got to mention, Eric Scott thought that was a great impression of Christopher Lloyd there. I thought it was awesome. I think you hit it right there. Doc Moore joining us in the chat. Hey, Doc, how you doing? Doc does some of the best sunset shots and ocean shots up in Nova Scotia. Doc, am I right on that one? His Twitter feed is awesome. You should definitely go check him out. Anyway, yeah, let's dive into the episode here. I don't know if we really need to talk too much about the opening bit. Again, I also thought that was beautiful. I thought it was a great way to intro what the rest of the Mandalorians have been doing and the ships they have and the size of their fleet. I thought was all awesome. And the fact that what does a Quarren bridge look like? Because they're, aquatic. Oh, and the captain's got their own little, swim pod there in the captain's chair. I mean, again, all that was fine. My only complaint is the one that I have with just a lot of the alien stuff here on this, and it's a tiny quibble. Everybody speaks excellent, clear English. Doesn't matter what species you are, where you're from. I really would just like a little bit of species variation. For some reason, I always thought that Admiral Akbar sounded a little different. It's a trap, I don't know. Maybe he got the Christopher Lloyd influence on him or something. But it's just the fact that everybody, regardless of species, always has like perfect, clear English. I don't know. It kind of takes me out of it. But otherwise, I thought that it was a great little opening scene. I thought it was very touching, and I thought it was a nice, simple way of introducing the Mandalorians. And like you said, the fact that they're not about just shooting you. They have a way of doing things, and just getting the job done. So I appreciated that. Any other thoughts? We can just move on from that, or anybody got any thoughts or reflections on that bit? No, perfect. Okay. So let's get to our world. And you're right, Rob. I thought that was excellent. I love the intro. You're right. It totally looked like Epcot. It does look like they're really the Disney park influence is definitely making its statement here. And this is one thing where sometimes I've thought that things look too clean. Navarro, for one instance. This is one where, to me, that worked perfectly. This was a fancy, cleaned up, beautiful society. Everybody is just living their lives and doing their things, and the droids are all working. And the fact that this looked like a mall promenade totally worked for me. And then, even most of this and just the cleanness and brightness of this, to me, actually all really worked well. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, in some ways, there's not like a whole lot of real specific stuff that I really want to kind of dive into. The couple of little parts. One, I don't know if any of you guys have seen the Boston Dynamics videos when they're testing their robots, but they're always kicking them and pushing them over with brooms. And my wife has said repeatedly, like, man, don't do that. Man, you're going to get that. See, that's how the robot rebellion starts right there. They get tired of being pushed over. And obviously, from a dynamic standpoint, you're tested to show, hey, these things can stay on their feet. But I think that they did a really good job of showing you that this is what can happen. You keep kicking your robots over, they're going to run away. They're going to shoot at you. They're going to cause chaos. Boston Dynamics, you got to change your ways, man. This is what happens. But yeah, let's get into the robot thing. Again, I don't know. I don't know what, if you guys have anything to say about the whole Lizzo, Jack Black, that kind of intro bit there. I don't know. What do you guys want to jump in on this?
You know what? Let's dive into the whole mystery of it. Because we definitely got to see the differences in how Bo-Katan operates versus Din Djarin. Because here they are on a mystery quest to find out, why are these droids going rogue? Who's got these droids malfunctioning, or in this case, not malfunctioning, but reverting back to some of their base programming.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing the whole thing of, like when they went to go visit the Ugnaughts, and Bo-Katan is just kind of like, hey, look, Ugnaughts, yeah, we got questions for you. And her not understanding their culture, because to a certain extent, even though she has been a mercenary or bounty hunter for, at this point, I would say at least 5 to 10 years. There's also the whole thing of, well, yeah, she was also, excuse me, she was also a princess. So there is a certain amount of kind of arrogance to her approach, where it's like, okay, well, yeah, you guys are grunts, you make battle droids or whatever. So yeah, if I come around with my Mandalorian swagger, you're supposed to answer my questions. And they paid her absolutely no mind. But Din he's a foundling, you know. Yes, he was raised in a particular Mandalorian culture, but because he was raised in the culture that he was raised in, it has brought him a certain amount of humility when he's approaching certain situations. So him talking to the Ugnaughts, he was like, all right, well, I've already had an interaction. I've studied how they speak to each other and how business is handled.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, this was kind of a business transaction to a certain extent. So for him, he's like, okay, well, no, I have to speak their language. Yeah, they might all speak, and in Star Wars, what we call English, they call Republic Basic.
Sure.
But yeah, they may all speak the same language, but not the same dialect. And it's those subtle changes in knowing the cultural differences that was able to get him over where Bo-Katan sitting there like, okay, fine.
Yeah. No, and that was a great callback to season 1 and Quill, who is such a strong character in that. And so, yeah, I think that was one of those fun moments for the audience of like, oh, Din has learned from his experience. And as you say, he's probably a little more humility, a little more dealing with various types of people, and willing to put out that respect to get where they wanted. Because obviously Bo-Katan's, leading ways was not really doing it. So no, that's an excellent point, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have spoken.
I don't know. I really liked that they both bring something to the table. It wasn't just a one-sided thing, because again, if you're already going to be annoying people with the lack of, his lack of anything really going on for his character, you got to at least not let him get shown up in every scene as being like wrong at handling a situation. So they were able to give us a balance of she knows how to handle this, he knows how to handle that. I also just imagine how he like perfected talking Ugnaught, because like I like to think in between the panels, right? Like in a
Right.
comic book, what happens in between the panels where he's just like sitting there just like listening to this guy and the way he talks, like, I mean, he'd be going crazy after a while, man. He'd be like, I have spoken, like just going out by himself, like to take a leak or whatever. And he's like, I have spoken. Like, no, like just how. Like,
I don't want to hear you, man. Yeah.
I know you've spoken. That's how he learned. Like, it just like getting this guy talking to him. Like, I mean, we all think it's cute, right? In small doses, we think Yoda talks great and everything, but like after a while, you just be like, oh my god. So, that's what I was thinking. But the Ugnaught scene though is where I started thinking about the different areas, because like we see this like great theme park, but what's underneath it is the people doing the work.
Yeah.
There are workers there. There is stuff going on, and again, that's what got me like more excited about this plot. But then it just kind of fizzles out into just this. That's over, and we get to see them being like Alice in Wonderland, as some people have put it, which is pretty. I'd say it's pretty accurate, like kind of way of looking at it color wise and the way it looks. Like, I also did really like that they went full on with them kind of being campy royalty.
Yeah.
Like the over the top royalty. So almost like so that if you're gonna be distracted by their cameos, let's really be distracted by it. Let's make it over the top practically with the whole fancy ball and all the weird aliens having dinner and her whole train behind her and everything, and how his cadence of talking was. I thought that was really, really cool. How he's like, let's go see the view. Like they did a lot of interesting stuff here. So if you want to take it like that, if you want to get distracted by the cameos and everything, fine. But I still say that the plot problems are worse. Like him just knowing that it's him is fine. It's how you get to knowing it's him that's not. And it's just like, oh, well, okay, we knocked over, or we had a cool robot chase. We shoot the robot. That was really cool. The robot chase I thought was excellent. Again, like we talk about the action scenes and the way they look, and we're getting to talk, again, the original guy who was the voice of the droids in Phantom Menace that were introduced in the Phantom Menace. That voice that we heard a million times.
Oh, it was nice
the
to battle droid.
Again. Yeah, it was nice to hear all that, and we get it. And they go, okay, well, this is interesting. We go into like CSI, and they just go, oh, it's this guy. Like, turn the thing. Oh, there's the code. Oh, and who wouldn't? And it's just like simple. He didn't try to cover his tracks or anything. Again, this is why I'm like, what is wrong? Their head of security, who would know how to hide things, just does everything like right out in the open so they can find him, and then he just goes, and I'm gonna kill everyone. It's like, well, why didn't you just do that? Forget the whole
well, and what was his demand?
If he was so ready to do it, like, just do it. Like, if he wanted all this chaos in the first place, just press the button, and it would have made a more interesting episode, because then we would have had Din and Bo-Katan, having to fight. Then they'd have to, like, Lizzo and Jack Black would have to call the Mandalorians in. And then we could have had a fight somehow in there where it's just like she's fighting her own people, right? And she gets the thing, and then they get in the dark saber and they somehow fight over the dark saber, and she wins it fair and square. And we all forget that there was the B plot going on anyway. And after the dust settles, they go, maybe we need to start rethinking about how we do things here. That's it. I think that's a better resolution. Well, I mean, I still like the ending of this episode, but like I just figured might as well just blend it and put it all in a blender together and see what comes out.
Well, I think a giant droid Mando battle would probably have been too pricey at that point.
Oh, sure. I mean, because we got to make a great looking Ahsoka trailer. We got to like make Ahsoka look like the best thing you've ever seen in the middle of this, right? Right after we watch this episode, we get to see Ahsoka and we go, I wonder where all the attention was going while they were making that. While we were making this season. I don't know. I don't know where the attention went.
Yeah. Well, Doc in the chat's also remarking about the marked turn in tone this season. As Rob has said before, it's 4 kids are trying to toss out lots of carrots for them this season. And yeah, we've definitely discussed I talked to my mom today who actually loved this episode, but the first thing she said was, yeah, it almost lost me. I mean, this season, I don't know, it's been all over the place. I don't really care or know what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, that's my mom's feedback. Who's even the hugest fan. So,
and after the news that we got today, which we'll get to more of that, I mean, it kind of makes it even more like, wait, what do I even?
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely touch on that. One of the things I definitely want to get into this episode, in this discussion, is the droid bar. So I know we had the whole CSI bit and didn't use the dark saber to go against the guy. Yeah, that's fine. That's a nice interplay scene. But the droid bar, I don't know what this says about the Star Wars universe, because if droids are going off to a bar when in their off time, I don't really know how that works. Now we're talking about a sentient group of mechanical slaves for the galaxy. I mean, droids have always served kind of a weird position in the Star Wars universe, and we just accept that people own them and they hang out and they can like you and all of that. But with that sense of ownership and so on, you can still believe that they are items that have, like an AI interaction thing. When they're going off to bars and hanging out with each other and having their own conversations back and forth, that really starts to put a different kind of tone on them. And I don't know if I'm the only one who's seeing this, but there was just something really weird the minute that they bring up a droid bar. I mean, I like how the changing updates and stuff are working with the droid system. Hey, you drink this stuff and it's got all the little updates and cookies and new things for you, What if you don't want your droid updated? Again, I don't know, but did this bring up anything for you guys? I mean, what did you make of the whole droid bar kind of idea?
I actually really liked this part of the episode.
I love you guys. Yes, go on.
No, I mean, I just, again, I wanted to see more Star Wars in my Star Wars, and like the beginning, this gives the place and the world and the planet it's on more character. There's very little of character in this episode, so I'm gonna grab and not let go of any of it that I see. Whether it's weird or not. Weirder the freaking better, I say, because at least it's original and something we haven't seen before. Or at least, it's uncommon. And as kind of corny as it kind of got, and I really liked it. I liked Jin's just good cop to her, or bad cop to her good cop. Again, her performance in this episode actually is really, really good.
Well, and the buddy
She
cop
is
back and
so
forth.
she's not stoic. She's just taking things in stride. Even how like earlier when she's like Lizzo thinks they hired them and she's like, yeah. Like she really has a great balance of character. Again, I'm grabbing onto any of it that I can. Um but I also just liked the speech that he was talking about. I liked talking about, and again, this got me more intrigued in their world, was like this whole thing about being replaced by humans. And I thought humans didn't have to work. Like it asked more questions, and it just opened up the world a little bit more. And yeah, as weird as it all was, I was just like, this is what I wanted to see, is other corners of this universe that we've never seen. I mean, it does on paper kind of feel like a really like a sitcom that Fox would have tried in 1993 or something. But droids loosely like George Lucas one night like wrote something on a napkin like droid sitcom, sent it over to Fox, and they were just like, what? And that's what we got here or something like resist. But I really liked it. That's my 2 cents on this.
Nice. Don, what about you? What'd you think of our droid bar?
So honestly speaking, at first I was just taken aback by the fact that I'm like, wait, droid bar? Okay, let's see where this goes. So when Din and Bo-Katan walk in there, I was like, the first thing I was thinking was like, if they both have on their helmets, could they possibly be mistaken for droids? But no, not in the slightest. As soon as they walked in, the whole bar just kind of stops and looks and is like, oh, yeah, that would be a very awkward feeling. Yeah, very awkward feeling. So that was just interesting on that level because again, we've never heard of a droid bar before. And it's like, well, why would they need it? And it's like you figure out, oh, this is where they get their software updates and their patches and stuff, but also this is where they kind of get away from humans and being their servants for just a bit. Um, so that was interesting. I guess to see how the other half lives or operates in this regard. Um, and just to see like they have been showing that um droids are kind of at least semi sentient, and so it's one of those things where it's like, wow, like they're afraid to lose their jobs to humans because that also could mean that they lose their lives as well.
Yeah.
They're not just going like, yes, decommissioned. Like
that's
sounds
a
like
euphemism if I've ever heard one. Yeah.
Right. It's like, we're gonna have to decommission all these droids. I'm like, so basically, in other words, you're gonna send them all to the scrap heap.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. I was talking to one of my coworkers earlier about the episode, and he was like, "That's a crazy society, and I don't know that I would actually want to live in that." He was like, yeah, it would be nice to be able to have the freedom to do, as you wished. But like, what would be your motivation to actually really do anything if you don't have to do anything? It's like you can follow your dreams, but like, is it really going to mean that much if you don't really have anything to necessarily strive for? Like, because it's almost like you can't fail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, right? You don't have to worry if you don't have to worry about having a regular job, right? And you can just kind of indulge in your passions. After a while, I would imagine that existence might get pretty dull. It sounds good, like, yeah, hey, I want to be a musician. I can just sit around and play music all day. I don't have to worry about cooking, cleaning, doing laundry. I don't have to study something I don't want to for a job that I'm not going to care about. You know, it would be like living your whole life in retirement almost. Yeah,
Well,
I
I
don't.
think I think the other Star series out there kind of proposes that exact situation, and their solution is, well, then you pursue what it is you want to pursue without the need for it to keep you alive. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. Having lived through COVID, I'm like, no, man, give me time to do other shit. Heck, I could use half the day just cleaning my house.
I mean,
It,
yeah, that's what I'm
The
saying.
way
I'm like
the way you were
the other
describing
Star
that,
series. Excuse me. Any other Star series, though, people still do work. They just don't work for money.
that's true. That is true.
the way you were describing that really got me. Like, I was like, man, this sounds like the beginning of like the prequel to a new BioShock game. I was like getting ready to like hear about how great it is on this biome planet. Like, where are they gonna go for? I'm sorry to segue into something off topic, but like, where would they go for the next BioShock game? A planet where they put a biome up where nobody has to work, and then somebody goes to make some deliveries there and finds out the whole place killed each other. Like, oh, so thanks, man. That gave me an idea. So I'm gonna like have to write Sony some things like, hey, BioShock 3 on a planet biome where nobody has to work, but somehow they all decided to kill each other anyway.
Though that would be a great setup. And with all this discussion and in the chat, Doc Moore was mentioning he got the feeling the droids were unsure of their place or purpose without their owners, whether it be the Republic or the Empire, concerned about being of use. And like you said, Don, decommission is basically death to them. You're right, Rob, in the sense that, I mean, you're right in many ways, but in this particular sense, that there's a lot of groundwork played for really interesting class discussion and comparative, even within this episode, whether it be the droids that are concerned that they're going to lose their jobs to humans, which is a fun turnaround, the Ugnaughts that are actually working on the droids in the basics, while you have the upper class that's basically like, nobody has to work anymore, we just hang out. And the reality of all of these different levels that need each other, but in a way aren't really acknowledging the other existence on the, as things go down the ladder. So,
And that
yeah.
being said, like a better motivation for your villain would have been, do you know how hard it is to keep this going? Like, maybe I need to shake things up so that, we get some more help or something, some kind of lean or play to like get them to pay attention that it's not really working. It just seems like all these little things that we can come up with just in our discussion as we talk about it gives us, to at least me, better ideas of how they could have handled this and still gotten us to the same place.
Sure. And I think there's definitely questions that can be laid at just like, what was Christopher Lloyd's play there, especially at the end, like, I'll press this button. Okay, well, you're making no demands or giving an or else, or I need this to happen, or energy change. It's just like, I'm cut. We're just gonna stand here, threaten. And the fact that Bo-Katan just shot him effectively and took him out, I thought was great. Yeah, I think one of the best things is definitely the buddy cop feel that this episode gave is the interaction between Bo and Din. I loved seeing that. I've mentioned how much I've loved seeing them together. So whether it's the Bo-Katan which could be their shipping name too, better than Bin or something like that. I mean, I like their interaction. I like the chemistry that they had in here and the different ways they had to approach things. But look, all of this was side quest to get to what effectively was the end of the episode. which is finally Din facing off with Axe Woves. There's a body spray joke somewhere here. I'm just going to leave it alone, though. About who gets to lead.
Sounds like failure.
Smells like what's inside that armor. Stinky. Anyway, the resolution of who's going to lead the Mandalorians. And I was honestly expecting things to kind of be stretched out here, especially since so much of the episode was just spent, doing side quests. The fact that they really kind of wrapped up this whole getting the fleet back and re-leading the people in a fight and a speech. I don't know. I was glad at the end they were ready to move forward with it. And I did like the fight between them. But I am really glad, like you said, Rob, that the point that we brought up in episode 2, droid beat Din, Bo beats droid with the recovered Darksaber. And then that's what is able to put them forward. The fact that Din's position there was like, hey, this is hers, and this is why, according to your rules, the distributive properties of victory, A is beaten by B, B is beaten by C, therefore A was beaten by C. Boom, here's your thing. And made them all acknowledge it. And not just like, so it's theirs, but by your rules, and even repeats it. Right? Right? Yeah, it would be hers. I thought was a great way to do that. So yeah, let's talk Mando fight, guys. Rob, why don't you start us off?
Or you get rid of the computer graphics on Lizzo's train. You lose the entire part where they're bouncing around little pill bugs. You cut back on little things in this that didn't need to be there. And then you give us the real fight. Because, again, I don't like that. I realize this needed to happen in front of an audience, right? It couldn't just be like how it was, I think, with Sabine, where she got handed it to her then.
Mm-hmm.
So it just feels so like, okay, if you want to go, it just feels so late. It just feels so, if it just had to be in front of an audience, I don't understand why they couldn't have worked it in, like in the fight. Let's say the fight's not over and he pulls Din into it somehow. Anything than just, I guess some people would say, well, this is Din be like learning from Bo-Katan to be more diplomatic instead of saying, well, let's just square off and fight. He could have just like kind of came at her out of nowhere and been like, whoa, and saying like in his mind, this is how we have to get this done. Because I mean, honestly, he's not I love him, but he's not the brightest bulb in the shed. Or I don't see. Now I'm not either. Okay, so I'm fallible too. Right, I couldn't even get the freaking whatever I was trying to say out correctly. Well, you know what I'm talking about. So any way that we could have gotten there with a little bit more flair would have been appreciated. That's all. Like I like. Look, I pick high speech, high intelligence in my RPGs too, but he's not a high speech, high intelligence character, and it should have been a fight. It just should have been a fight because I don't think we're asking that much after when these things are already done, it's hard to go back and fix them like really quickly. But I mean, and again, knowing what we know, so it's like when we only get one shot at this, there aren't going to be more, like, it's not going to be Mandalorian season 4 probably, right? Or even 5, I should have said 5. Like, we don't like. So just seeing this show just slide down like this to me, and just as much as I enjoyed it, it just keeps taking away like opportunities to redeem itself. But again, you can't redeem a show that's already done. They just have to put the episodes out and go, well, here we go. Let's hear what they're gonna say this week. So They're not South Park. They can't just turn it around in a week. So,
And yeah, it does take them a little bit longer. Yeah.
like, I really did like the fight with her and him. I thought it was really like I like that punches are thrown. It feels, like a proper Mandalorian versus Mandalorian fight. I just I want to at the end of that fight to just do that feels anticlimactic.
Sure. I hear you. Don, what about you, man? What did you think of our resolution here?
So, first off, I'd like to say equal rights come with equal lefts. So I am glad that we got a knockdown drag out fight with Bo-Katan and X Wolf or whatever his name is. And I'm glad finally I don't have to hear the internet talking about but he hit a woman. I'm like, hey, they're warriors, okay? They're both warriors.
Yeah.
This is what they do, okay? And Katie Sackhoff, has been kicking ass on screen for years. So kudos. All right. I was actually shocked that we did not get a fight between Din and Bo-Katan for the dark saber, because that was definitely kind of teased throughout. Ever since the end of season 2, it's kind of been like, oh, okay, this is going to be a thing. It has to be, because they've already laid it out. Hey, you can't just say here's the sword and now you are Mandalore. No, you have to fight for it, and that's why she wouldn't even take the dark saber from him before in front of the other night owls. When he's like, nah, I don't want to take the sword, you should be like, nope. Yeah, Moff Gideon is right. So yeah, it not what I expected. I'm not mad at it at all. This does kind of mirror the scene that she had with with Sabine in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of I'm wondering if, and this is kind of getting off into rumor mill now. I'm really wondering if the shift in tone and also the character dynamics and also what it seems to be the pushing forward of Bo-Katan. I wonder now if it is true that there's all this kind of behind the scenes drama, and now like Bo-Katan is going to be shifted into being the main focus for the duration of the series. Um, Again, I wasn't mad at it. I like Bo-Katan as a character. I like the fight. The fight was well choreographed. I think it was good to actually see two Mandalorians square off for real in live action. um, yeah, but it does leave me a little wanting, because it's kind of like, all right, well, now what? You know?
Well, yeah, there's 2 episodes left in this season. So to take in Mandalore now at the end, yeah, it does sort of raise some questions on where we're going.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much covers, I think, the episode. And if you've got any final thoughts, we can definitely throw those out. But I think we're making some nice transition to some of the news that we're getting out of Star Wars Celebration, which is happening in the UK right now. So any final thoughts before we jump onto the new things? No? All right. So yeah, we've got some big news that has come out. Yes, the trailer for Ahsoka has dropped. That looks awesome. My only quibble, tiny one, I prefer my Sabine in short hair, not long hair. I like that look on her. But outside of that, I think it looks great. We definitely see where money is going in. But we've had also news of 3 new Star Wars movies that have been announced. One is follows the sequel trilogy, and Daisy Ridley will be returning as Rey to lead that one. Don't really have any more information out of from that. I don't know if we're going to have other characters returning. I like Daisy Ridley. I liked Rey as a character. The quibbles that I might have more with just the execution of the films rather than the character. So I'm actually personally really excited to see that. We also have another one directed by James. I just want to say Mandalore right now, but that's not his last name. Mangold. Thank you, James Mangold, who's going to be doing a super prequel. It's basically the Dawn of the Jedi. So this will be thousands of years back when we have that. So that's going to be a whole different take. The third one is apparently to be directed by Dave Filoni himself. Is going to take place in this current time period where we're having Mandalore. It is going to be a giant crossover movie that will be bringing in characters from Mandalorian, from the Ahsoka series, potentially from Skeleton Crew, and everything else that's going on in this timeline. And the note that I kept seeing was, it is to, where did I write this down? That it's going to wrap up plot points set up in Mandalorian and Ahsoka, which seems to imply a wrap up of the show. We already know that season 4 has been written, and that's expected. And we're probably going to get 2 seasons of Ahsoka, so I don't know how far ahead this movie is planning on being. But in February, just over a month ago, in Variety, Jon Favreau mentioned that The Mandalorian has no ending planned. It's not like that there's a finale that we're building to. So I'm wondering if the movie is not to wrap up The Mandalorian as a show, but just some of these particular plot lines, possibly the Thrawn plot line, to wrap all of that all up. And that the Mandalorian itself can continue adventures afterwards on his own thing. But hell, who knows, man? How many Star Wars projects have been announced and then reshelved? And I don't know. I mean, I think Ahsoka's going to be exciting. The fact that they literally call Thrawn the heir to the Empire, I think, is a huge, awesome setup. So I don't even know what this film is going to be if they're going to be doing Thrawn during the series. So I don't know. That's all the news that I've got. Thoughts, Don?
I'm gonna watch the Ahsoka trailer with my girlfriend after this because she happens to really like Rosario Dawson. And then I'm gonna pretend like I had never heard the rest of what you just said. I hadn't heard any news on from Star Wars Celebration. And now I want the Mind Flayer to come and erase everything after we got an Ahsoka trailer.
I'm sorry to warp your brain like that, man.
Oh, hey, man! Like, he tweets about something, and I reacted going, "Mando's canceled? What?" Like, because it just, like, I didn't. I don't. To be honest, I've fallen out of touch and step with a lot of the news coming out of like a lot of these movie camps. But I mean, yeah, the Ahsoka trailer is the friggin' bomb. You're right. That doesn't mean that the Mandalorian is over. what I was thinking is, and this is we were talking about like last thoughts of our episode or whatever, but the thing that makes me think about like as soon as you said a Mandalorian movie, or even what would happen in at the end of like for season 4, right? And I keep thinking about, and we've talked about this before, but just the whole thing of like, why didn't we just see Din on his own and Grogu where he is with Luke and came back after all of this was over and deciding then, because there was no need for Grogu in this season so far. There wasn't. He'd have been just as fine if we had like, but we can't. They kept them together for a reason, but that reason is non-existent in this season. And Din's character is basically he's there because he has to be. He's the character, and we And I've got this sneaking suspicion that after all of this, the lead up to why one of the big things of why this is going to be the big pop off crossover thing. And this is, I came up with this before the crossover, but now that you're telling me it's a crossover, I'm almost, if this doesn't happen, I'll be shocked, because their level of what the mistakes they've made leads me to believe that they are still capable of making mistakes coming up. And what I think is going to happen is Grogu's going to get taken at the end of this season, and it'll have meant nothing, everything else that happened. Because the big chase will be, I got to get the kid back, and everyone's going to want to help.
I agree
Rob, I so hope you're wrong. I'm done. I can't even say anymore. I'm sorry.
It writes itself. It's right there in front of you. The bad guy is not, he's there, but we can't see him yet. There's going to be the big taking of Mandalore. There's going to be the mythosaur. Oh, everybody's going to be taking their helmets off and cheering. Because that I still think is also going to happen. And then right when they just aren't paying attention, Moff Gideon's going to come and take it. It's going to be this big devastating no. And no one will know but them. And they're going to have to gather an army of other people from this universe to go take it to Moff Gideon and Thrawn and who knows. Let's get the space ghost of Grievous. Why not? And just, but that okay. I know I'm going too far now, but you know what I'm saying. I'm telling you, odds in Vegas. But then you did the Rey movie. I mean, the big news for that is really just the stamp. If this is like people election deniers. Like if you don't know at this point that the new trilogy is staying, when they announce a Rey movie, that just it's not like Rey's gonna wake up like freaking Bob Newhart at the end of Newhart being like, honey, what? Oh no, the trilogy. Yeah, the trilogy. Like she wakes up next to Finn or something, right? And she's like, honey, what happened? And she's like, oh man, I dreamt that my life went some really weird places. And then Han Solo walks in and is like, hey, is everybody all right in here? But I am excited for a Rey movie because she was a really good part of the movies that I did see. Again, still haven't seen the last one, and I never will. I think I'm gonna stick with my guns on that. Every time I think I'm gonna go back on it and ask you like, hey Darrin, let's have a watch party and just secretly watch this bastard. And every time I go no, because once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. And as long as it's not seen, it is not canon in my brain. So all the rest of you poor suckers out there that had to deal with this, I'm still clean. I haven't been tainted. I'm still fresh. I still got it. I have not given in to the dark side.
I think there are people that are jealous of you with that.
But I am excited for a Rey movie, irregardless. I think she's great. So
Excellent. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. I say the Star Wars news was cool. The Ahsoka trailer was great. Oh, one thing that I just saw just before I came on tonight, they dropped the trailer for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and damn if that doesn't look good. I'm not going to say anything more, except that I was starting to get teared up. I thought it looked
Rob,
great.
If you are an Indiana Jones fan, and plus, Rob, you're from the Chicagoland area. How dare you? Okay.
I'm not watching this trailer. I'm just going to the movie. Okay. I don't need any information.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do that.
I've seen thumbnails, and I've seen Harrison Ford go, it's really good. And I don't need any more than that. I was gonna go anyway. I mean, look, Shia LaBeouf's not in it, so I'm already there. I was there. I've already seen it, and I can tell you this review from the future that Shia LaBeouf did not ruin that movie. Big shock. So even if I don't like it, I'll not have any preconceived notions of it, because just like anything right now these days, I am just trying to go in cold, and not let hype and everything else affect how I see something. I want it to be just as it's directed by directed by James Mangold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the guy who made Logan. I just don't see this,
Hold on, but remember, the same guy who made Logan also made the Wolverine. So
yeah, but that day, no. See, that movie gets a bad rap though.
I saw the Wolverine in theaters and fell asleep twice.
Oh,
so that's what. Listen, they took one of my favorite Wolverine stories and butchered that shit all to hell. So I mean, yeah.
Hey, look, all we have to say for that is
mistakes are always made. It's not perfect, man. It's not perfect, but it's still better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's still better than X3 last class, no class I should call it, X3. It's better than Apocalypse. It's better than Dark Phoenix. It's better, it's better than the entire series of The Gifted. It's so
wow. Okay.
There were some good
moments. I don't know. In The Gifted. Well, yes.
It's in the title of the show, The Gifted.
All right. Well, I think that gives us all covered everything. One other little bit of news. Hold on a second. One other little bit of news. Sorry, Rob?
No, I was just saying this is all bonus content, y'all.
One other little bit of news that did drop this week is my next audiobook is bound. Head over to Audible and you can check out The Raptor's Nest, the second book in the Splice Fire series, narrated by yours truly. Fun little adventure, sending our crew of Spider King and his friends off to Las Vegas, which is now a post-apocalyptic hellhole without government, to go up against one of the most dangerous booster gangs in the world. It's a big, funny read, a little bit more adventure than the first one, which is a little more tech-oriented. But yeah, if you are interested in audiobooks, the link is down below. Check out The Raptor's Nest. All right, so thank you all so much for joining us. Looking forward. We got 2 episodes left. We got 2 episodes left in this season, so I'm not really sure where we're going to go. Again, I'm still thinking by the end, Mandalore is taken back over, but I'm not even going to start guessing of how they're going to get there because I've been wrong from step 1, and this is really an uneven season. So hopefully we'll barrel down. Like I said, 2 episodes left. If Dallas Bryce Howard wants to do one more of these episodes, that would be great. And I believe it's Fukuyama who's directing the other one, who's done quite a few of the episodes here too. So we should have some big movement, some big action. I hope they don't steal Grogu at the end, but I don't know. I'm Darrin Jakes. You're watching D's Reviews. And everyone, where can people find you?
You can find me mostly at Smirking Rob Plays on Twitch. It's all one word. We just play a bunch of games and get into conversations and zany antics, or sometimes we just play the damn game, and that can be actually just as fun too if you like watching my style of gameplay. And then yeah, we're Smirking Reviews is a channel that I have. You could also try Smirking Reviews Classics, where I did recently put up my Rob's Never Seen of Rocky, which is was a really interesting. I couldn't believe that how I felt about that movie after I saw it, and got more things coming down the pipe as I get more settled into a new space. So just be patient, everybody. Good things are coming.
Awesome. Don?
You can find me here with these guys being disappointed by whatever the hell's going on in the internet. Yeah. So catch me next week with these two here. Yeah.
We'll be back 6 o'clock next Friday Pacific time, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. And you actually, let me throw out real quick, you might catch me over on Enchantment of Eternity this coming Wednesday, 6 o'clock Pacific. We're going to be diving into the Next Generation episode, Reunion, which was, I got to say, a fun episode to rewatch, and definitely had some of my favorite moments in Star Trek. So next Wednesday, 6 o'clock Pacific, over on Enchantment of Eternity, I will be joining Mark, and we're going to be talking about the Next Generation episode, Star Trek The Next Generation episode, The Reunion. It's great. Worf meets his kid. All right. Anyway, thank you all so much. We will chat with you later next week. And y'all have a good weekend. Everyone join us in the chat. Thank you so much. Everyone join us in the archive. Appreciate you spending your time with us. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.